Communication has become the need of humanity as it reflects the lifestyle of a person. Even in times of need to secure oneself and to seek help, every human does need some sort of a communication to survive. The manner in which communication occurs does not matter, but throughout the world we need to communicate with each other in every possible way, either verbally or non-verbally, to satisfy our goals and tasks. Communication has got to be expressive, distinct, and powerful to be successful. Humans also understand and learn better communication skills once they start to communicate between organizations and groups. Language is a major feature to be considered while communicating. It is also important that pronunciation and other language skills are taken into account before conversing with a person while talking to others. Sometimes, the message that is to be conveyed is not understood clearly due to lack of language skills, the outcome being poor communication, waste of time and energy. Animal communication is slightly different from humans in terms of their ability to understand and grasp new languages, modes of communication. On the other hand, human beings have to communicate to meet their needs and goals in life. They have the power of reasoning and the capacity to master a new language easily when compared to animals. Apart from making humans survive, communication helps us to understand one another. Communication is a must for every individual. One's appearance, caste, creed, and intelligence has no role to play in it. We humans can come to a conclusion as to who we are on the basis of our day-to-day activities. Therefore, we find how communication is interconnected, enabling humans to act or adhere to the situation or environment. Human communication system, we'll see the models. Every individual is endowed with the power of speech in their own way that helps to become the best communicators on earth. There are some basic goals towards attaining them. They include understanding, that is mutually, which is a major key in relation to successful communication. It is always better to be simple in the way we express something to one another in the easiest and the simplest form. Humans have their own way of communicating, grasping, and realizing things, and they interpret differently as well. Therefore, a good communication is essential, at least to a certain extent, to attain some benefits for oneself, provided the message and information that is transmitted is worth understanding. Today, it has become so easy and convenient to communicate with one another than it was several years ago. Effective communication occurs when a desired effect is the result of intentional or unintentional information sharing, which is interpreted between multiple entities and acted on in a desired way. This effect also ensures that the message is not distorted during the communication process. Effective communication should generate the desired effect and maintain the effect with the potential to increase the effect of the message. Therefore, effective communication serves the purpose for which it was planned or designed. Possible purposes might be to elicit change, generate action, create understanding, inform or communicate a certain idea or point of view. When the desired effect is not achieved, factors such as barriers to communication are explored with the intention to discover how the communication has been ineffective. Hockett's features of human communication. Hockett, an American student of language, developed the design feature approach to differentiate human language from other types of communication such as animal communication into 13 at the initial level, and then included 3 more elements as follows. The elements are: first one, vocal. Auditory channel. This type of a channel involves complete hearing. The message is conveyed by the voice and the signal is received by ear. One has to hear clearly to obtain a positive outcome and in turn respond correctly to the information. Number 2, broadcast transmission and directional reception. In this type, the message is conveyed in all possible directions by mouth, but the receiving of the message is confined to a limited direction. The signal is spread over in all directions, but the outcome or perception of the signal is only in a single direction. Number 3, rapid fading. In this type, the wave form is not persistent. It is conveyed and then fades off eventually. In other words, once said, it is never heard again. The signals are not perceived after some time. Number 4, interchange ability. Here both the signal and transmission of the message is possible by the speaker. The message or communication is interchangeable. Number 5, total feedback. In this type, the speaker will be able to hear his own voice and therefore keep a track of what they speak. Traffic signals are an exception in this case. They do not fall under this category. The feedback is monitored now and then by both the sender and the recipient. Number 6, specialization. Humans use their organs such as eyes, lips, throat and tongue as instruments to deliver the message, unlike in the case of animals where it is not true. This can also be similar to an animal's way of communicating using signs or symbols and non-verbal methods of communication. These are specifically adapted into a particular task. Number 7, semanticity. This type involves objects, symbols or other forms of signals to bring about the meaning. Number 8, arbitrariness. In this type, the word may be large, but its meaning doesn't have to necessarily be large or big to understand. Number 9, discreteness. Here, the speech is considered to be distinct and clear throughout. Whatever be the information, one can be very sure that the source of information is clear and distinct. Number 10, displacement. This infers that a speech need not be of present tense alone. It can cover all tenses uniformly. Number 11, productivity. This type refers to the creation of new ideas, making people learn and understand better, like bringing forth new terms in speech. In this way, new words, ideas and creative thoughts can be established and transmitted for other individuals to learn as well. Number 12, traditional transmission. Although every human is born with the gift of transmitting or conveying his or her message, one should also not let go of one's own native language by birth. Number 13, duality of patterning. Different parts of speech can be combined together to form a new pattern of speech with discreteness. Discrete parts of speech can be systematically conveyed. This type is closely related to productivity, but productivity includes creation of new words and ideas. Number 14, prevarication. Prevarication can be defined as the ability of the communicator to make false statements, but this should involve a purposeful manipulation of a given shared communication system in order to fool the other members of the communicating group. Number 15, reflexiveness. The tendency of the language that can be used to refer to itself. Number 16, learnability. The term learnability is related to the easiness for a person speaking one language to be able to speak another. Stimulus, freedom and grammaticality were also added elements at a later stage. Now, let's talk about organizational communication. Proper organization is a main factor in communication. It is something that starts amidst an organization. Success in a business lies in its organization. It lays both internally and externally. There are some factors as to why this type of communication is of great importance. A business can flourish only when all objectives of the organization are achieved effectively. For efficiency in an organization, all the people of the organization must be able to convey their message properly. Communication is thus a process by which meaning is assigned and conveyed in an attempt to create shared understanding. This process, which requires a vast repertoire of skills in interpersonal processing, listening, observing, speaking, questioning, analyzing gestures and evaluating, that enables collaboration and cooperation in an organization. Few researches were based on which the following results occurred. Humans act rationally. Some people do not behave in rational ways. They generally have no access to all of the information needed to make rational decisions they could articulate, and therefore will make irrational decisions unless there is some breakdown in the communication process, which is common. Irrational people rationalize how they will rationalize their communication measures whether or not it is rational. Formal logic and empirically verifiable data ought to be the foundation upon which any theory should rest. All we really need to understand is that communication in organizations is observable and replicable. Communication is primarily a mechanical process in which a message is constructed and encoded by a sender, transmitted through some channel, then received and decoded by a receiver. Distortion, represented as any differences between the original and the received messages, can and ought to be identified and reduced or eliminated. Organizations are mechanical things in which the parts, including employees functioning in defined roles, are interchangeable. Individual differences can be minimized or even eliminated with careful management techniques. Organizations function as a container within which communication takes place. Any difference in form or function of communication between that occurring in an organization and in another setting can be identified and studied as factors affecting the communicative activity. The other way to classify organizational communication is as follows. An organizational communication involves a constant flow of information, orders, wishes, and references that fall under two systems, formal and informal communication. A formal communication includes a formal speech that is spoken and written, followed by adjusting it according to the needs of the organization. Whereas, if we look at the informal communication, there is a free flow of communication within the vicinity, that is, the organizational team, and it does not require prior planning. Organizational communication needs prior planning, and a continuous flow of information is passed in this type of communication. This type of communicating formally happens according to the situation where there is a flow of information among individuals, proper planning and organizing qualities. There also needs to be a good control over the organization. The Anglo-American business culture refers to the informal type of communication as grapevine. It is personalized and is totally opposite to that of the formal type of communication. The result or outcome of an informal communication is the way the employees perceive things or the realization about the organization. Information that is not disclosed formally is also brought about in this type of communication, which is typically seen in the American culture. Directionality seems to be a main concept of critique among the various patterns of communication. The sending of messages and information on the basis of their levels of hierarchy classifies communication as vertical and horizontal. Vertical communication takes place at both levels, upward and downward, while horizontal communication takes place only at the same level. In organizations, a downward type of communication stands best when it comes to approval of budgets, making policies, maintaining standard procedures, setting goals, working on specific aims and objectives, and other general announcements. The information is conveyed in the form of emails, notices, individual to individual, or from an individual to a channel, or by passing it on further within the hierarchy. Addition, augmentation, distortion, or reducing the conveyed message are possible at the time of transmission. Augmentation is a type of communication used by people who are either not able to speak or to listen. In case of any failure during the transmission, the upward hierarchy is never affected. There is another form of communication. This is called diagonal communication. Here, even a low-level member in the organization can convey or receive messages from a higher-level member in the hierarchy. This is practiced in the informal type of an organization. In diagonal communication, information is passed between all levels in an organization. High-level people in an organization can communicate with lower-level members in creating new ideas and achieving goals. Cross-cultural communication. Communication across different cultures with people of different backgrounds is called cross-cultural communication. It includes the ways of successfully forming and maintaining good relationship with one another, and this is made easier by working on the social aspects, decision making, manners, and a good level of understanding between people of different cultures. The above type of a communication also emphasizes on anthropology, cultural studies, and psychology. These deal with both the study of inter-ethnic relations and communication in different populations. The rise of globalization is making intercultural communication demanding, thereby raising different work environments. This helps those individuals who want a scope into foreign markets to understand and master skills in the cultural intelligence and cross-cultural communication. With the increase in population and different cultures and heritage, communication does face certain problems now and then, especially when one does not understand or know the particular language of the country or region. It therefore makes it mandatory to learn a new language in order to communicate for meeting our goals and tasks. With difference in culture, heritage, and population, including variety in languages, people find little difficulty in getting accustomed to a particular region and its language for communication. Cross-cultural communication adheres to the private and public sector. Today, globally, all men depend on their respective government heads with their own ways of communication and cultural predictions. One has to realize the necessity to communicate with one another in order to go through certain tasks or goals, especially amongst people of different cultures. In terms of business, it may require proper management, principles, and planning. Cross-cultural communication is increasing today where Internet is the latest technology. English is now a widely used language. English can lead to miscomprehension resulting in a poor cross-cultural communication. Therefore, a proper cross-cultural communication is necessary. Some parameters of the different types of people and their culture are high and low context cultures. Edward T. Hall, an anthropologist, was the man who first brought in context as a culture. He split them into two groups, namely high context and low context. Context, according to Hall, is a stimuli or something responding to the surrounding. A brief outline of the information has to be given to people in low context cultures, as these individuals lack the power of understanding what is being conveyed. Both high and low context cultures are sorted out according to the way of communication and the way the information is conveyed. Non-verbal, oral and written. In order to attain effectiveness towards intercultural messages, there are certain skills to be focused upon. They are the non-verbal, oral and written messages. When we talk about non-verbal messages, it includes everything under the roof, right from maintaining a good eye contact to expressiveness, which is practiced by Americans and Western Europe. In the Middle East, Africa and Asia, eye contact stands for disrespectful behavior. Those individuals who lack an eye contact end up having poor communication, which reflects the lack of confidence in them. In this way, the required message is not conveyed properly. Let us deal with group dynamics. This can be classified into two on the basis of social groups as intra-group dynamics, that happens within a group, and intergroup dynamics, that happens between different groups. One can track various diseases, make decisions thereby following new technologies and ideas. Racism, sexism, epidemiology, education, business, social work can all be better understood in group dynamics. Group dynamics also helps in the study of sociology, political science, education, anthropology, and so on. All matters and information are discussed accordingly, either within groups or between groups. This kind of commonly practiced or made use of by politicians, socio-economic organizations. Intra-group dynamics. Norms, roles, relations, and goals are key factors in intra-group dynamics. Every member is influenced by each other's attitude, opinions, behaviors, and experiences in a group. It depends on how one predicts the boundaries of the group, as there may also be a result in subgroup. For in each group or subgroup lies a unique dynamic. Intergroup dynamics emphasizes on the attitude, opinion, and behavior between two groups. It involves focusing on the behavioral and psychological aspect of the individual groups. Intergroup dynamics has both advantages and drawbacks. The advantage is that it helps to create a positive balance among the groups to achieve their goals when they work as a team. The drawback is that it results in conflicts when a person from a group is compared or praised to a higher post against another person from the other group. In this case, any individual would perform the following. Number 1, favoritism. Number 2, assumptions, perceptions by exaggerating their own views upon both groups. Third, gain a positive impression towards the in-group than the out-group. Number 4, perception of differences between both groups. Among groups, there could be people having a soft corner or liking to an individual in the committee. When this arises, there exists conflicts and misunderstanding between the other members in the group. Sometimes conflicts do arise between the outside group and inside group. People also start assuming things, showing positive signs and paying more attention to those belonging to the intergroup. The outcome and perception of things seem differently. Sometimes, though there is an intergroup interaction, members of individual groups still have favoritism within their own groups and throw a negative outlook towards the opposite group, resulting in discrimination, prejudice. According to the history of conflict, small, for example, students of different universities, or big intergroup conflicts, such as conflict between ethnic Hutu and Tutsi, would either be harmless or highly competitive. This type of a conflict is seen among political, racism, ethnic and religious groups. Conflicts arise when a particular group or community alone is favored and given importance. This results further into discrimination and competition among individuals. All these are noticed mostly among politicians, communists, students in a class and other ethnic groups. While concluding, I would like to say, having read about the different ways of communicating in detail, we find the need and importance it has in our daily lives. We humans should therefore understand that proper communication is essential to move about in the society, and that both the way we communicate and what we communicate ought to be considered. It also speaks about oneself, as the saying goes, the face is the index of the mind, and so communication tells you who you are. Communication in early days has also been of great importance and standard, where people had specific ways and languages to communicate to the people in society. Today, the trend has changed, where people communicate casually in their own comfortable way without taking the pronunciations and right words to be used at the right time into consideration. This type of communication or vernacular language sometimes results in conflicts among people in the surrounding environment or vicinity. Communication among people is very important, especially to whom we communicate, and where we communicate has to be considered. For example, one cannot communicate poorly in front or the superiors at work or his teacher or someone of a higher position. People should generate the habit of acquiring new words, their meanings, and use them in the right way and right time. Without communication, the human can survive in this planet. We all inherit our ancestral language easily right from the time we are born, and still have the ability to adapt and learn new languages for communication when in a foreign place. This makes us unique from animals in the way of communication and knowledge. So, let's all stay united and connected with a good skill of communication. Thank you.